Hey, good morning. Good morning, everybody. We are live here on a wonderful another Thursday. It's 11 a.m. and we're getting ready to have a great conversation. Got my brother that's going to be on here, Pastor LaBaron Hedgemon, and we're going to be talking about relationship rehab. That's what I'm talking about. So we got people coming in. Y'all say good morning as we coming in. I see people are coming in to say hello. Y'all say hello to me. Let me know who's here. Let me see who's joining us on today. Please remember to watch it, to share it. Let's do a watch party. Let's let people know what we're talking about today. Like I said, we're going to be talking about relationship rehab with my brother, and it's going to be a great topic. He is a mastermind, and I love just communicating with him and just going back and forth on conversation. It is going to be a great conversation. Good morning, Azina. I see you're here. I see she's looking forward to another informational discussion. Can't wait. Thank you, Alzina. Glad to have you as part of the show today. Please let me know that you're here. I see people are starting to come in. People are joining us, and we are here on also on YouTube. Please make sure that you sign up for and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're trying to grow our subscriptions and subscribers, so please make sure that you go to the channel and subscribe. We got people coming in. They starting to comment. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I need to make sure that I got my other stuff going on here. So make sure, please interact with us. We want you to ask as many questions as possible. Remember, this is a segment on being stronger and better. So we want to make sure that people are really becoming stronger and better in their life goals and their relationships and their finances and health, and making sure that we're doing everything we can do in order to be stronger and better. Please let me know that you're coming in. Good morning to everybody. Good morning. Good morning to everybody. People are starting to come in now. Please share us. Let's do a watch party. We're not going to be on longer than an hour. Good morning again, Isaiah. I see you say good morning again. So glad to have everybody here today. And I'm going to go ahead and bring my brother on. What's up, man? What's going on?
Good morning, my people. How you, brother?
Man, I'm good. What's going on down there in Mississippi?
Man, we trying to stay dry.
I'm telling you, man. Y'all
And
got to
prayer and prayerfully out of the way of Laura.
I know that's right. I know that's
Yeah,
right. But
yeah.
people
So
are coming in. People are coming in. They saying good morning. Good morning, Paula. How you doing this morning? I know you know Paula, Pastor. And
yeah. Good morning.
we got Robin saying good morning to us. We got Marissa saying good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good
Y'all
morning.
out here, please. We want you to interact with us on today. We're going to be talking about relationship rehab and how important our relationships in our everyday walk and how we deal with life. So it's going to be a exciting topic. So please make sure that you're sharing this. Good morning. Good morning. We got other people coming in. Miss Janine is saying good morning. Good morning. Glad to have you here. But let's go ahead and get started because I don't want to waste too much time.
Okay.
Life is built around relationships.
Oh man, most definitely.
It's built
Most
around,
definitely.
and I've been talking to a couple of people lately, and I've noticed that there's not a lot. Well, there are a lot of people who do not know how to develop true relationships.
Yes.
And I noticed that even with trying to develop relationships, even if they develop them, they don't know how to maintain relationships. And as I even think back in my childhood, a lot of people cannot um, cannot really say how many true friends or true relationships that they keep over the years.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I'm glad that we are able to come on today and really talk about relationship rehab and how that affects our life. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you the floor, and we can start our discussion on
Wonderful.
just on relationships.
Wonderful, man. First of all, let me thank you for having me on. I think you're doing an incredible job. I think this is necessary. I think it's therapeutic. And again, I think it is enlightening to the journey of life. And
Yeah.
relationships is a part of that life's journey. I can't remember, I think it's an anonymous quote. A guy once stated that if you're able to travel through life
Hmm.
with one friend,
Wow,
you are a blessed person.
that's true. Man.
So we understand that, having a friend throughout life, Friendship is a part of relationships. It is a degree, or should we say, of relationships that is
Yeah.
considered a blessing. And I agree with you. You know, there are a lot of people who don't know how to engage relationships, how to sustain relationships, how to enhance them.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that helps us is to understand early on that there are levels to relationships.
Right.
And I like to look at this from the perspective of 5 levels. And each level, as we begin on one level, we graduate to the next. So this will help the viewers to be able to, number one, identify where relationships are in their life, and then know what's the next phase, to
Yeah.
know how to progress that relationship properly.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we meet someone, they seem like they're so kind and cool. Next thing you know, we're marrying them, or we signed a deed of trust, we signed a business loan.
We
You
sign
know,
out
we sign our life over. We progress. There is no gradual progression. There's no matriculation. There's no requirement to force the
Yeah.
relationship to develop. And so
Yeah.
relationships have to develop, you know. And so these 5 levels, we'll talk about that. First of all, I think you have the first level of relationship, which is called acquaintances.
Okay.
And I want to give us a good basic description of what an acquaintance is, okay?
Yeah.
One of the greatest errors is that we oftentimes call and interpret acquaintances as friends, and
Yeah.
they are 2 different levels.
Right.
Okay, so when you're talking about an acquaintance, you're talking about someone who's actually someone you're cordial with. Okay,
Right.
cordial. We
Right.
speak, hey, how you doing? You know, they're not enemies, but nor are they close.
Right.
So that's a healthy balance there. An acquaintance is
Yeah.
someone that you're cordial with. They're not, are they close? And these
Right.
are people that, again, when you see, you speak to, there may be surface conversation. How you doing? How your family doing? How your children? How you feel?
Right.
That's an acquaintance. Now, the
Those
next
people
level,
you're moving with. Hello.
yeah, you're right.
Right.
And so the next level is the level of friends. And
Yeah.
so you should not have people who are friends that did not first begin with being an acquaintance.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when we have people who are not even cordial with us, people who don't even care to even speak to us, and then we progress them forward to friendship, we've
Yeah.
already aided in our emotional, psychological, and relational dysfunction. So
Yeah.
after we have acquaintance, then we move to the level of friendship. Now, this is what's amazing. Friends are people who you are intentional about conversating with and visiting with. So I'm intentional about our conversation. I'm intentional about our visitation. So it doesn't mean that you see them every week. It may be people you see once a year, maybe people you see once every 2 years, but you are intentional
Yeah.
about not allowing a certain amount of time to pass without us engaging in some
Yeah.
sort. You go out your way to make sure that if there's a text, there's an email, there's a phone call, I want my friend to hear from me, and I'm intentional about me hearing from them. These are friends. So there's a degree of intentionality. There's a degree of investment to
Yeah.
make sure that these things are in place. And this is very powerful here, Pastor LeRoy. Friendships, excuse me, are those relationships that is absent of pretentiousness.
Well, let me ask you, because I hear people say, I don't need friends.
Right. That's not true.
Yeah,
That's not true.
I don't need friends because I don't trust them. I don't, I don't get along with them. And friends, they break your heart. So what's your feeling on having friends?
I think everybody has to have friends. Jesus had a friend.
Yeah.
God had a friend. The Bible says Lazarus was Jesus' friend. And I'm not trying to just go all scripture, but
Yeah.
and the Bible says that Abraham was God's friend.
Yeah.
So if God and Jesus had a friend, then friendships is not necessarily a bad. It's a God idea. We're safe to say. So what happens is we don't follow these levels properly. And
Right.
so we've given people in the past the title, the provisions, the access of friendship
Yeah.
when it wasn't earned and merited. And so we end up getting hurt. Now, even in relationships of every kind, there's going to be disappointment. There's going
Yeah.
to be the parting of ways.
Yeah.
It's a part of life, but you should not allow a situation that did not end well or to govern. In other words, let me say it this way: we should not allow situations to become principles.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you
Yeah.
got sick when you was 13, if you got chicken pox when you was 13, do you
Yeah.
go ahead and make it a universal principle that you'll never be healed?
Right. Right. Right.
And
Right.
so we can't allow situations to become principles. So I had a bad relationship. A friend did me wrong. So now I'm going to make it a principle. I don't
Right.
need friends. We have
Right.
to be careful with that. And I think that's really exposes the need for rehab. That
Yeah.
speaks
Yeah.
to unresolved bitterness, unresolved
Yeah.
pain. And
Yeah.
those things are real. But we
Yeah.
have to process through those things. And friends help you with that.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's harder to heal. It's harder to get through certain segments of life without friends.
That's
It
true.
is.
So let me ask you this. So we got acquaintances, we got friends, and we're talking about those different levels. Uh, what do you think it takes to move from an acquaintance to a friend? Like, what should I be looking for in that acquaintance to want to spend more time with them as a friend?
I'm so glad you asked that. I think the descriptions of the friendship describe this. First of all, you see some intentionality on their part to
Yeah.
come to conversate
Yeah.
and maybe to even have visitation. In other
Yeah.
words, you're not the one doing all the calling. You're not the one doing all the checking. You're not the one
Yeah.
who's the
Yeah.
holiday reaching out. No, there's also a mutual interest being expressed. And then again,
Yeah.
friendships are absence of pretentiousness. So I don't have to pretend. So as you have
Yeah.
acquaintance in your life who don't force you to try to be something you're not. You don't have to fake it with them.
Yeah. Yeah. You got time to.
Right. So if I'm wounded, I'm wounded.
Yeah.
If I'm down, I'm down.
Yeah.
If right now,
Yeah.
I'm on the up climb, I'm not on top, it's okay.
It's
And
okay.
as you see people who can actually watch this, handle your honesty with honor, you can
Yeah.
begin to move them from the acquaintance level to the friendship level. And it's not overnight, it's
Yeah.
gradual.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. And that's important because I'm realizing, and people should realize that I am who I am with my
Yes.
flaws, with my goodness, and I am who I am. And you ought to be able to deal with who I am and help me to grow. And I think that's where that friendship level comes in. Um,
Mm-hmm.
as acquaintance, that's so surface.
Yes.
It's very surface,
Yes.
and it's
Yes.
almost you still have those walls up, and you still have those almost that persona of who you want people to believe you are. But when you move into that friendship, it gets a little deeper than that. And so I don't know if you can talk on that a little bit.
Yes, most definitely. Yeah, it definitely gets deeper because at the friendship level, because there's no pretentiousness, then there's really no support for
Yeah,
manipulation and deception. See, if we're going to be friends, then we have to be honest with each other. We have to be true to each other. And so there's no need to be
yeah,
manipulative. There's no
yeah,
need to be, again, deceptive. And
yeah,
this allows the relationship to move to a deeper level because now the friendship is strengthened on honesty,
yeah,
not assumption. And I
yeah,
like to say it this way. You want to enter into relationships with people based off of reality,
yeah,
not based off of potential. You
yeah.
know, now there's always potential there, but you don't want to say, "Oh, well, I know." They lie a lot, and I know they get over. They'll take you for everything you got, but
That's right.
they got the potential of being a
A
good
good friend.
person. You
Yeah,
don't
right.
enter you don't enter into relationships solely on potential. You enter
Yeah,
into relationships based off of reality, and that's
yeah.
wisdom.
That's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
That's good. That's good.
And
So
so you
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So I was saying, and many of us, even listening now, we can think of friends we have now that we've heard that, we've already been able to identify, okay, that's a friend, or maybe I call them a friend, and so you say, okay, I got these people in my life, we've been friends for some time. Sometimes there's platonic friendships, And then, then there's times when there's the kind of friendships that are not necessarily same sex, but there could be some interest there in regards to, could this be possibly my life partner? So,
Yeah.
like, what's the next level after
Yeah.
friendship? It is the brotherly, sisterly level.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
these are people that honestly you develop a sense of unquestionable, I love this, unquestionable commitment.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
these are people that we use the term brother and sister in the respect of, just like in a perfect sense,
Yeah.
not a Cain and Abel situation,
Yeah.
that your brother is someone who, or your sister is someone in whom you never have to question their commitment to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there are some friendships that are God sins, where there are some people who have a unquestionable commitment to you. And there's always a respect for your best interest that's
Yeah.
shared. And these are people that, they're more than friends. These are people, we live in a day and time where people call each other bruh, and they call it,
Yeah.
hey sis. And
Yeah.
we use those things so casually, but truthfully, when you understand relationship rehab and you want to be able to get all of your relationships healthy, then you got to understand, when you call somebody brother and when you call somebody sister, now you could be speaking from a cultural perspective, but when you're really speaking from a honest perspective, these are people who you never have to question their commitment towards you and the relationship
Yeah.
and the mutual best interest. And I believe that people who we end up doing relationships with on the level of lifelong interest, whether it's somebody I'm now interested in dating or
Yeah.
somebody who I want to make a Beyonce, it's proven that those relationships are more apt to succeed when they are stemming from a foundation where there was this brotherly, sisterly, unquestionable level of commitment. So when I know you are committed to me like my brother, my sister, it gives a great sense of security to us trying to do life together.
Yeah. I was just sitting here thinking about, my brother, my natural brother and my natural sister,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So I don't care what we go through. I don't care if we fuss fight. I mean, 10 minutes later, we willing to drop it. We go to
yeah,
lunch. It's like it never
yeah,
happened. And
yes,
and I'm sitting here thinking in terms of what you're talking about, relationship rehab. Um, in that same brother and sister commitment of friendship or relationship, should that be the same in terms of almost an unconditional love for each other, or unconditional kind of respect in terms of dealing with each other?
without question.
Yeah.
Without question. The only difference in some instances is that there's no biological genetic harmony.
Yeah.
Yes, these are people that are not necessarily, kin to you, but the level of commitment, the level of respect for your best interest is never within question. And yes, that should be the case. Yes, yes, it should.
Yeah, that makes sense. That make a lot of sense. So we did have a question. I'm gonna throw it up on the screen.
Sure.
Miss Kennedy. It says, not sure if this was discussed already. What are the red flags in a friendship? When do you decide that this person is not a real friend? That's a great.
That's a great question. Great question. I think honestly, one of the two of the major signs that speaks to red flags in a friendship would be jealousy is one, and
Yeah,
selfishness. I
yeah,
think when you begin to see people who you call friends who cannot celebrate you,
yeah,
then that's a major red flag. That is a sign of jealousy. And you can't have jealousy and have a true friendship.
yeah.
It just doesn't work.
That's true.
And no, the jealousy, the word itself literally means one who is refusing to share.
Mm,
And
yeah,
so when you have people who you call friends who refuse to share in praise, refuse to share in sacrifice, refuse to share in compassion, then that's not a friendship. So jealousy is one. The second one is selfishness.
yeah,
Selfishness, though, it has to always be about them. It has to always be about them,
Yeah.
well, and selfishness carries many disguises. It's disguised so easily,
Yeah.
and entitlement is a disguise to selfish. They say, well, I thought you would have, or I felt like, that's entitlement talk. And so
Yeah.
everything is based on their perspective. It's not, well, okay, what do you think? Or help me understand how I could have helped understood you better. It's like either
Yeah.
you fit in their world, in their circle, or
Yeah.
you don't matter. And that's a major red flag. And
Yeah.
I think that when you begin to see signs of jealousy, when you begin to see signs of selfishness, and again,
Yeah.
jealousy is the refusal to share,
Yeah.
then you really need to downgrade. You
Yeah.
need to adjust. Here's a good word. This requires relationship rehab, requires modifications. Okay. And there are times when you got to modify the position of that person and move them back down to
Yeah.
an acquaintance
Yeah.
until the season comes where you see friend fruit, new fruit
Yeah.
that speaks to friendships. And I love this. Let me say something here, Pastor LeRoy. And this doesn't mean that you're a bad person. Several years ago, I talked about the story of Abraham and Lot. And we were living in a time about maybe 5 to 7 years ago where everybody was talking about cutting people off. You got to cut
Oh, yeah.
people off.
That'll be,
You
yeah.
were you were seeing this stuff on YouTube, talk
Yeah.
radio stations,
Yeah.
hip hop stations, and it even bled to the pulpit where even in church, you ain't on my level. You can't go where I'm trying to go, and all this stuff. It really promoted a mindset that you burn bridges. And
Yeah.
when we looked in the Word of God, the Bible says Abraham did not disconnect from Lot. He said, Lot, you pick one side and you pick one area, you're gonna go there, and I'm gonna go here. He did not disconnect from him. Listen at this. What he did was he repositioned him. And so
Yeah.
we have to learn how
That's
to
true.
reposition people, not
Yeah.
necessarily disconnect from people, because you never know who is to be a favorable assistant in your next season.
That's right.
And it's easier to progress and transport and convey favor when there's been a repositioning versus when there's been a disconnection.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that some friends block the progression of you engaging in true friendships?
There are times that's selfishness.
Yeah.
It gets back to selfishness. You can have a friendship with someone, and we can go into friendships even deeper. There's casual friends, there are
Yeah.
close friends, and so there are times when there are people who are friends, but it's casual. And then there's people who are friends that are real close. And anytime people refuse to share, well,
Yeah.
why you got to get to know them? Why you got to, they can hinder, those things. And so, it gets back to, again, that selfishness, and it gets back to that jealousy. And I want to say something. There are times when these things are unbeknownst to the person. They are not intentional.
Yeah.
And this is how you measure that. When you begin to communicate to them that, hey, I feel like you're a little selfish here, or it looks like to me that
Right.
you're a little jealous here. If they can't not necessarily receive, but if they can understand and respect your concern, then they pass the test. But people in whom you call friends that you can't even bring the red flags to conversation,
Right. Right. Right.
that's
Right.
not a good sign, because a friend is more interested in
Yeah.
maintaining understanding
Yeah.
than they are giving ultimatums.
That's right. That's right. You need to say that again.
Yeah. Friends are more concerned
Yeah.
about obtaining understanding. Okay,
Yeah.
because that's how we
Good stuff.
move
Yes.
in seasons. We maintain understanding. We go
Yeah.
through different changes, but the understanding of our friendship is never compromised.
Yeah.
But when people do not want to preserve the understanding, but only want to give ultimatums, oh, you offended me, so you calling me jealous? Jealous? Oh, well, since I'm jealous, then we ain't got to be friends. That's not a good sign.
I think
Okay.
we need to talk about too that friendship grows. Like it should not
Yes.
stay in one position. And
Yes.
as we go through life, we're maturing, we're developing, and as a friend, you ought to be maturing and developing at the same time. And
Most definitely.
saying something to you, it doesn't mean that I'm criticizing, but I'm trying to enhance the relationship and enhance the other person.
Yes, man. I love this because, and I'm glad you said that because, you're dealing with an individual, and as individuals who are humans, not robots,
Right.
we are expected, here's a key word here, to evolve.
Yeah.
Evolution is a part of life. Okay, and so we're evolving in our understanding. We're evolving as it relates to the levels of exposure. We're evolving as it relates to even our knowledge of who we are ourselves.
Yeah.
And so there's an expectation that should be placed on the friendship that, hey, it doesn't mean that I'm expecting you to be on Forbes top 10 list.
Right.
I'm not, so it's not like, okay, well, you're not getting your money up fast enough for
Yeah.
me to be my
Yeah.
friend.
Right.
But when it comes to your personal development, and the Bible says in Proverbs 17 and 17, 27 and 17 maybe, says, iron sharpeneth iron.
Right.
So does a man the countenance of his friend. And when you think of your countenance, you're thinking about, what you present, the essence of who you are. Okay.
Right.
And so the Bible, when there's a true friendship, we expect sharpens the countenance. Just like iron sharpening, so is your countenance sharpened. So
Right.
I expect you to get better. That's an expectation
Right.
on the friendship.
My
And
friends should be challenging me, and I should be challenging them to grow.
Yes.
There's no way we should be stagnant in any way.
That's exactly right. And it doesn't mean that every conversation is a conversation about growth, and every conversation and every moment is not a moment of challenge, but it should not be absent of that. Because if I'm your friend, I
Right.
should be committed. I should be committed to your development. It's your best interest.
Right.
It gets back to best interest.
Absolutely.
And so we have the friends, we have the brotherly, sisterly, just so you all can be reminded. The first level is acquaintance, second level of is the friendship, third level brotherly, sisterly, the fourth level is confidants.
Before we go there, we did have a question.
Okay.
All right, let me get to the questions before we go there, and then I do want to encourage everybody. Please make sure that you write a question. Let us know. Interact with us. I'll put a link up if you want to come on live and actually talk to us and join us on the show.
Yes.
Please make sure that you're asking your questions. Get your answers, because we all want to become stronger and better together. But we had a question from Ernestine, and it says, "What advice would you give a single woman who may not trust a new prospect who would fall in love with you easily?"
That's a great question, because if they will fall in love with you easily, then you already know that there's some attraction there. There's some interest there.
Right.
That there's a desire there. And so I would say my major advice to you would be to not be manipulative, to not take advantage of someone else's genuine attraction and interest in you. And the only thing that's going to help you to not manipulate that situation and take advantage of that situation is your commitment to self-betterment. And so I think the first thing you must do is communicate honestly to that person that, hey, I have trust issues, and I'm not ready to move this relationship on the level you desire. I'm committed to my self-betterment, which I see as a requisite to the possibility of us having a relationship. So right now, I would need you to be a friend. And if you're willing to be a friend to me to aid in my self-betterment, then we can see if that friendship evolves into something of a greater interest. But if you know you got trust issues, you're only going to run unnecessary mileage and pain on the innocent, because
Wow.
it's just not fair. It's not fair. You owe it to yourself and them to work out your defect before I try to fit. And it's hard to fit when I'm full of defects.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with being defect. Doesn't mean it's the end of the world. I throw my hands up and say, oh, nobody want me, I'm just this. No, I want, you got to work through those things. You got to work through those things. And we're encouraged. We're encouraged to let patience have a perfect work. For when patience is finished processing us, the Amplified says we will be wanting nothing with no defects.
Yeah. So on the flip side, let me ask this question: How should a person help them through that process of gaining trust? Because even in friendships, and I have to do my part also to show that I'm trustworthy.
I love that.
Yeah.
Great question. Well, trust issues or mistrust is what we can call opposite of trust is mistrust. Always has two things. It has a voice and it has expressions.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I don't trust people, it's going to come out in my language. And it's also going to be expressed, it's going to be seen through my expressions. So, I went out and got some at the store, got some chips. We pulled up, got you a Mellow Yellow, got me a root beer. I get back in the car, you put your phone down. Who you were talking to?
All right.
That's an expression.
That's us.
And if you're going to help people with their trust issues, you've got to, first of all, with compassion and with courage. Compassion is going to control my approach. Courage is going to encourage me to not dismiss it, but address it. You got to address moments when you see those expressions and when you hear that conversation or that kind of distrust language. You got to be able to help people see those things. So what I have to do is when those moments come, when those situations, I said, hey, no. Now let's talk about what you said. And let's talk about the way you said it. Let's talk about your expressions. Yeah. So, do you know, then when you begin to talk about those things, you begin to connect expressions as well as statements to a prior situation. Now we're moving forward.
Yeah.
The second thing we must do after connecting the distrust in this expression and this conversation to the past moment is to help that individual separate the past moment from the present moment.
Yeah.
Because the only way to be able to grow from having trust issues to trusting again is there has to be a sanctification, a separation from then and now. What happens is we bleed that into now. So I'm going to make you pay for everything they did. And you didn't even know them.
Well, that's what I was about to ask.
You clueless. You like what? Right.
So how do you separate the past that somebody has gone through who brings that into this friendship? Like, what should they do? How should they drop it, or how should they release that past pain so they don't affect the next person?
Right, because the person who's just came on the scene, that's kind of we gotta, and I want to say this, we gotta have some sense of reason.
Yeah.
You can't expect people to just endure all of your past relationships and all of your issues, and you expect them to hear this every day, every week, every holiday.
Right.
Let's operate within reason. That ain't reason. That's not reasonable.
Yeah.
So what do you do to keep from burning out and running off those people? How do I get past my past? You got to start putting periods there.
Yeah.
Emotions want to put a comma there. And see, if we put a comma there, then there's continuance. You just got to start putting a period there. You have to start acknowledging that was then. That's over. That's that person that was in that stage of life, that was in that year, and this is now. You got to start putting a period there. You can't allow those things to bleed forward. And you have to be intentional about saying things like, this is but this is different. Or if the person who you're in a friendship now name is Marcus, and the one in the past name was John, you got to say, I got this. He's not John. This is Marcus. You have to be intentional in helping yourself progress the separation. Okay. And we have to consciously help people be reminded of moments when they're still using a comma where there should be a period.
Yeah.
It's all about consciousness.
Yeah. No, that's good. Now, when you was talking, I was thinking about self-correction. That's really, or mind reset. And it's so often we get in these situations and we don't reset our mind. We don't reset our thought process on how to heal ourselves in the midst of the relationship or the new friendship that we're trying to develop. I don't know. Did you freeze on me, LeBaron? We might have lost them.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back now.
Okay, all right.
All right. Not sure what happened.
I didn't know I was frozen. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so we had to do this reset. So you got it? It's coming in and out on my side.
Yeah.
You should be now. Your lights. All right, there we go. All right. Well, let's move on because we only got like 20 minutes left. So let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, and so the next level out of brotherly and sisterly is confidence. And now, the relationship is moving now to a deeper level because unlike acquaintances, unlike friends, unlike brothers and sisters, confidants have a different level of expectation of them for the relationship. And confidants are people who you don't always have to see often. You can see them often, or you can see them on occasion, but they have a uncommon loyalty. A confidant is someone who's for you, no matter the season and no matter the climate.
Yeah.
They're for you.
Yeah.
Now, confidants have to be vetted. You don't assume someone is a confidant. Truthfully, the Bible says a friend loveth at all times, a brother is born in times of adversity.
Yep.
And so your seasons.
Yeah.
It's in your times of trouble where people begin to emerge out of just being a friend and a brother and a sister to being people who show you loyalty. And that loyalty will sustain through your storm. So it's like you can't really be a confidant without a storm.
Yeah. So
these
are ride or dies.
They're your ride or dies.
These are ride or dies.
And they can say they're ride or die, but they don't prove they're ride or die until they had a reason to die. But they rode.
That's right.
Yeah. And so I read something one time that was so amazing to me. It said, never forget the people who got you in trouble. Never forget the people who left you in trouble, and never forget the people who helped you when you were in trouble.
That's right.
And so those confidants are people who are vetted. They have a uncommon loyalty. You never have to question. Somebody can come to you about a confidant in your life. They say so, and you can immediately recognize, oh no, they didn't say that. No. Did you hear them say? No, I didn't hear somebody say it. You say, no, they didn't say that. No. You know your confidants and you know their position. Yeah. And they are precious. They are to be valued in life because they're hard to find.
Yeah. No, that's so true. Confidants are like, I got some friends, like even you. I come to you,
most definitely.
We don't gotta talk every day.
That's right. That's right.
But I can share stuff with you and know it's not going nowhere. And that's
exactly right.
It's a beautiful relationship to have, especially when you have to get things off your shoulders. You can be yourself. You can really talk in a raw nature. And
likewise, same way here.
Right.
Yeah.
And not be able to just dump, but be able to be restored back and receive. And I think that's so important in that confidant relationship. It's a give and take relationship.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next one. What was the next one you had?
And again, these people should be these things first. We want to be reminded of that. So I should be an acquaintance before I'm a friend. I should be a friend before I become brotherly or sisterly. I should be proven brotherly and sisterly before I become a confidant. The next level from confidant is covenant.
Yeah. Okay.
And covenant relationships are close, they are intimate, and there's an unquestionable I never have to question trust and support. You know, covenant is deep because truthfully,
Yeah.
it, things are not considered covenant unless there's been the shedding of blood. So, you know,
Wow.
covenant is like, that's the highest level of relationship. You know,
Yeah.
covenant people will take losses to help you win when there's
Yeah.
covenant.
Yeah.
And you know, this should be established before we ever say I do. And you know, there are times when, again, when we're looking at putting ourselves in positions in business and all kinds of things, that, you know, even when you get to signing a loan, when you enter into partners, when you become co-borrowers, even that loan is a form of covenant. You
Yeah.
know, and so we it really puts in perspective where the relationship should be, the level it should be on before we make certain decisions. And
Yeah.
that's the beauty of this show you're doing. It
Yeah.
helps people understand what the levels look like.
Yeah.
Because if I can then govern myself with the respect to these expectations, then it's going to help me always keep things on their proper level. And you protect your heart and you protect the heart of others.
That's good. That's good. So let's talk about in terms of some of the reservations in terms of relationship. You know, what are some things that we should
Yes, man.
look at in terms of this?
You know, I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, it's the thing that it's like the elephant in the room. A lot of
Yeah.
people talk about relationships, they'll tell you who their friends are. They'll scroll through their phone, they'll show all the people who they know they have on Facebook and all the people that they consider friends. But very few people are transparent enough to acknowledge and deal with reservations. And so I
Yeah.
like to look at as it relates to relationships. And in order to
Yeah.
have to rehab your relationships, you've
Yeah.
got to know how to work through your reservations. So when you
Yeah.
to better understand what reservations mean in a relationship, punctuations, even from an English standpoint, you have periods, you have commas, you have exclamation points, quotations, parentheses, but the actual punctuation that best describes reservation is a question mark. So when you
Mm.
have reservations, you have doubts. You don't have
Yeah.
certainties. You have questions. You're taken back. You got, you know, it's reservations. You know, I'm not sure. And so when it comes to relationships, reservations are real. And there are several forms of reservations in relationships, but there are three that are very much so common, I found,
Mm.
in the time in which we live. And the first one is the reservation of connection. There are a lot of people in relationships that have questions on, am I connected to the right person? You know,
Yeah.
is this the one? You know, am I settling for something less, or you know, should this have remain a friendship and I'm
Yeah.
making it more? There are people that have reservations about connections as it relates to even places where they work.
Yeah.
You know, some people have reservations about the cities they're living in. Am I connected? Am I in the right city? You know, and so that's one form. Then there's the reservation of consciousness, which actually deals with the harmony of perspectives. You know, there are people watching us right now who are in relationships and they say, you know, our biggest problem is I really think we think on two different levels. You know,
Yeah.
we have two different drives, we have two different goals. You know, they
Yeah.
want to go travel the world and live in the negative. Check and they want they find what they'll count being in the negative, long as they just got back from a trip. Then
Right.
you have
They
the
good.
other, they're spontaneous and you know they don't
Yeah.
plan nothing. Then you
Yeah.
have the other person over there who has the perspective that, hey, I think we want to see the world, but I think right now we need to be building towards retirement. We need to be trying to, you know, acquire, or we're trying to pay things down. And you say, you know, we love each other, but I have reservations concerning consciousness. I think we are unequally yoked, which is not
Wow.
only a matter of a sinner and a believer. Yoke has to do with your mentality. And so to be yoke is to be unequal in mentalities. And so a lot of people
Yeah.
have reservations as it relates to consciousness. And the third one is in commitment.
Hey,
And oftentimes I hear
wait.
this from the most, you know, people say,
Here.
you know what?
I don't want you to run over that unequally yoked because
Okay,
that's so
okay.
true. people really think that's all you being saved and not being saved. I need
Oh
you to
yeah,
yeah, I need you to go deeper into
I
that
will.
because that's
I
powerful.
will.
Yeah,
Yes, man. I like to look at it this way. When people look at unequally yoked being a matter of light and darkness, I'd say it's not incorrect, but it is incomplete.
yeah,
Because Pastor LeRoy, I cannot tell you the number of times where I have come across people who both were believers, they were saved,
yeah,
but they were not equally yoked in their mentality. And I want to explain what a yoke is. Okay. So, whenever we understand the purpose of the yoke was placed around the oxen's neck. Okay.
yeah,
Because the ox literally would not take a particular direction on their own. Okay.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
literally, when you understand it in details, the
yeah,
lines would be crooked.
yeah,
Okay. And so we're going
yeah,
to put a yoke on the ox so that the lines for cultivation for harvest would be straight. Okay.
right,
So
right.
as I keep the yoke, keep this in mind, as I keep the yoke on the neck of the oxen over time, over years, I will begin to control or develop or establish a mentality where now they will begin to be, watch this, trained to stay straight.
Yeah,
So the mentality is formed by the yoke. The yoke speaks to the mentality. Jesus said, take this yoke upon you and learn of me. Again, he speaks of yoke, speaking to what the way you think, the way you've been, what you've been exposed to, the way you understand. So people oftentimes stop at the level of, well, I only want to marry a man if he ain't saved. Or I don't want no woman if she ain't saved.
yeah.
And so we make that the only standard. So the moment
That's
we find
right.
out they saved,
We
we
all over the
proposing and we put announcements on Facebook, we sending save the
yeah,
dates
man.
when really
Right.
there's another level. We gotta we
Yeah,
gotta be able to vet their yoke, their mentality, because you may believe in being debt free. They may believe debt freedom in real. You may
yeah,
believe that, hey, I believe that in our household that we should talk with a certain tone. They may not have no problem cussing everybody out in the house. So that's a matter of yoke.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
You're right. Right.
one is yoked with the respect to
Yeah,
family function.
yeah.
Another one is yoked with respect to dysfunction.
That's right.
And so
That's
there's a lot of marriages, there's a lot of good long-term relationships that go bad because they have only understood equally yoked being a matter of conversion when really
yeah,
it's not limited to conversion. Okay. Equally yoked has to do, we don't necessarily mean we think the same, but there is harmony, is the word we use in
yeah,
our perspectives.
yeah, yeah,
In our perspectives, you know. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's important. I'm glad you had me to go back and clarify
Yeah.
that.
I'm sorry I had to interrupt you on that one because that's good.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
yeah, yeah,
I know
yeah.
you was talking about
Yeah, and so yeah, the reservations. And so there's
yeah,
there's a reservation of connection, there's a reservation of consciousness, and the third reservation in relationships that we have to rehab from is times that we have questions or reservations as it relates to commitment. We want to, do people care to the degree I care? Do people even love to the degree I love? Do people are willing to put in what I'm willing to put in? And so we question their commitments. And when you're wanting to rehab the relationship to get over these reservations, there has to be a sense of not necessarily skill. Skill is important, but there has to be a respect to conversation.
yeah,
And conversation is, to me, the language of relationship. If we can't talk, I'm getting ready to say something. If we can't talk, we cannot have a relationship.
yeah, no relationship.
The day is over for trying to have
Yeah,
relationships or actually saying you have a relationship with somebody you can't talk to.
can't have no communication. Yeah,
Because
it's
if we can't communicate, if we
yeah,
can't communicate, we can't turn the question marks, reservations,
yeah,
into periods,
yeah. That's good.
revelations, or
Yeah,
understandings. So
yeah,
so the goal is to be able to not say you can't have a reservation, but at least have the commitment and to be able to have the platform to be able to address the reservations. And that's where conversation comes in. And conversation is not,
Yeah.
I did all the talking, and then when you get ready to talk, I say, I'm done. No,
Yeah.
conversation is
That's good.
communication, which is the sending and the receiving of message.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So somebody made a comment. They sent it to my cell phone. I'm gonna read it. It says, "One thing I've learned is that your friends have to choose you also. You can't. You can think someone is your friend and confidant, and I'm sorry, and confide in them. And if they aren't true friends, they will put what you thought was in confidence out to other people."
That's exactly right, which is why the stage of brotherly sisterly, where there's a mutual commitment and best interest, separates the friend from the confidant. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's why you get this information is so important, because you're able to now track based off of the fruit you see, based off of the behavior, based rather what level this relationship is on. And if there's not a confidant, if they're not confidants, then I should not share things with them that I want to be kept confidential. And it is true. But I will say this: there are times when you can be willing to progress in the relationship to the level of friend or confidant, and the other person is not at that point, based upon, again, the degree of trust. Some people move slower, some people move faster, and so it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't want to be in the relationship, but you do have to respect their pace.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's because we only have
Don't
a
rush
few minutes.
people. Don't rush people. Yeah.
Yeah. So we only have a few minutes left, and I want to talk about God sends people in your life, and
Yes.
He sends relationships of all kinds. So if we could just talk about even seasons of people
Mhm.
and the relationships that God sends into your life, and what's the difference?
Yes, I'm a firm believer in God sends. As a
Yeah,
matter of fact, as you do research and study on the word God send, SEND, it would also encourage you to put in the search engine God sent, SENT. So a God send is interchangeably with someone God has sent. And I
yeah,
believe God sends people into our lives. Now, God sends people into our lives to serve a purpose.
yeah,
Sometimes that purpose is for the duration of your lifetime. Then there are times when that purpose is situationally. It's all about the situation you're in, or the one you're going into, or maybe the
yeah,
one you came out of. And
yeah,
so I believe God sends people into our lives, but I believe God sent people have several things in common. And I think this helps you recognize if you are a God send, or it helps you recognize if someone in your life is a God send. And
yeah.
one thing about God sent people in your life, they're sent to serve.
Wow.
God sent people are committed to serving the relationship. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that they become slaves in the relationship, but they are committed to serve the relationship. Not only are God sent people sent to serve, God sent people are sent to serve and not solve. What
Yeah,
make them so special to us is that they know how to bear with us, and they know how to forbear us.
wow.
Forbear means to give allowance. It means to give space. It means to refrain from enforcing something. So I
Yeah,
really could have mishandled you here, or I had every reason to not call you back. I was so disappointed in you. I had every reason to delete your number
yeah,
and block you. I had every reason to really take it somewhere, but I
yeah,
forbeared you because I see it as my assignment to serve in the relationship. And
yeah,
so people who are God sent into your life serve in your relationship. They understand they're not sent to solve in your relationship. They're not trying to make you their assignment and their project. They're not trying to be God. And they also are very sensitive when to exercise compassion. And I love that because
Yeah.
there are so many moments in life where you can look back over your life and recognize the people God sent into your life,
Yeah.
not necessarily because they upheld everything you did or they agreed with everything that you did, but when they agreed and even when they disagreed, one thing that was never missing was compassion.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And so we have to continue to be reminded of this because we are sent into relationships with other people. And we want to be able to be the God sent that He sent us there to be by serving the relationship, and by not trying to solve everything. And then by in our serving, dealing with people with a degree of compassion. I love this because there are, we oftentimes, LeRoy, misunderstand people's strength levels.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we miss people in moments. And so there are people, God sent people understand the importance of catching people and not missing them. Now, that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that there are times where you're not, that doesn't mean that there are times are not going to come where you did really miss them, okay? Because we're not perfect. But I never want to miss you in a moment. I want to be able to catch you in a moment. And that's what makes you a God send to that relationship. And uh, I know we're talking about things that are life aspect, not which is a life component, not always a spiritual component. But one of the ways to grow in this is to commit yourself to spending some in prayer, because God will then will allow you to pick up on moments
Yeah.
where they are. God will give you instructions. God will give you insights,
Yeah.
and we'll be able to serve. We'll be able to serve people from a place of understanding, not a place of assumption. Never forget that assumption is the lowest form of knowledge. I thought.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought you were fine. Never
Yeah.
assume people are okay.
Yeah.
Let them confirm that they are
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We only got about 2 minutes, but I wanted to tap this, and we might have to come back, LeBaron,
Okay.
on this one. All
Yeah.
right, because
Yeah.
I'm seeing that in relationships, people are searching for relationships, and they searching for these friendships. But what happens is they're willing to settle for what they know is not right in
Mm.
order just to have the companionship or to have the relationship, instead of waiting and or praying, like you said, asking God for that God sent relationship. And that's to me, that's an issue.
It
And
is.
it's a huge issue because we end up finding that people are more aggravated with the relationship and willing to deal with it just because they're scared to not be scared to be alone.
Yeah. Fear. Fear is just not a good thing on any level and in any area. And if you're dealing with fear, if you're operating, reservations lead to fear. You can
Yeah.
have so many questions and doubt that then you just begin to be afraid that what you thought existed didn't even exist anymore. And
Yeah.
so we do have to be able to help people with that, to not settle, to not compromise. And I think that's something that you have to have moments like these, platforms like these, for people to be able to speak to your waiting capacity, your ability to wait things out and allow things to develop and allow things to present themselves
Yeah.
for our betterment. So I think that is a subject matter that needs to be discussed and needs to be inspired through understandings and instructions to help those people not settle for something less than what God wants them to have.
That's great. That's great. Well, we had our hour, man. I love you, bro. I'm so
Love you
glad.
too, man.
Glad you was able to
Keep
come on the
keep
show.
keep up
And
the good work, bro.
man, I appreciate you. Just want to thank everybody for joining us for this hour of Stronger and Better. And please follow us on YouTube. I have the YouTube channel on the screen below. But please make sure that you follow us and do everything you can do in order to become stronger and better. Make sure that
Yes.
living your life out to the fullest capacity. So
Yes.
we're here every Thursday at 11 a.m. and we're going to see you next week. We got another great topic. I'm trying to get my parents back on. Well, I'm trying to get my parents on together. So that might,
That's awesome.
I'm trying to pull them
I
in.
want to see that.
You know, so
Yeah.
look forward to seeing you next week. I love y'all for another session of Stronger and Better. Y'all have a wonderful day.